Happy Drawtober 2025. This is a compilation of the first 7 days of this drawing prompt here that I've gotten into last year and now this year, doing this time-lapse version inspired by Odd Artworks, which you should totally check out. We're also playing in a Druskara game with the Dungeon Damsel crew over at Dungeons and Dyslexia's YouTube channel. This stuff has been somewhat talked about on the live stream versions of it, but this is a compilation of everything for the first 7 days. I figured I would share my thoughts and process in all of this. The first prompt being Torch here. Just really went at it with Torch, getting used to the tools and technique and process for this whole endeavor. I guess I sort of cheated because I started on the last day of September in testing out everything, but going ahead and making the most out of the prompt itself on the day, getting used to the markers and getting used to the whole whiteboard and the limited space in which to draw, and it kind of set the precedence right. But there you go. That's pretty straightforward. A torch. And the second day with Idle, which you'll probably see in a second here, I really started to get into let's make this sort of a map. Let's make this sort of a scenery as originally inspired by Juan over at Odd Artworks, to kind of make a little scene or a map. So here's day 2 here, where I start drawing pieces around this torch, walls and whatnot, and pencil sort of the process out. I learned last year working with ink that taking a minute to at least sketch out an erasable pencil instead of just going at it with pen and ink or whatever gives me a chance to kind of lay everything out to the best of my ability. Looking at my own hands here to kind of get inspiration for the eye. During this process, I've been renovating portions of my house, and this day getting 50 to 100-year-old insulation in my eyes left my eyes burning, so I'll always remember this drawing as inspired by my housing renovations and the burning idol being the operative term here. It's fun to kind of have different stages of the drawing in which the pencil really comes to life with the inking, and sort of get a second go and a second pass. And I don't marry myself to the pencil work, and sometimes I'll draw freehand without any baselines, but it's given me a great foundation to originally trace and draw and follow the original vision for this sort of thing. So I would recommend that for any budding artists, to take your time and lay a foundation down in pencil. It's obviously feels duplicative in terms of making an effort and then re-going over that effort. But last year when I did the just straight ink version, there were drawings that I just went to town with, and sometimes you're left drawing yourself into a corner here, sort of like this idol here, how it's in a weird little walled corner. And again, I like this process of emergent in terms of not really knowing where it's going, other than looking at the prompts. So I appreciate it. I started doing some camera work here, getting into the fine details here, with showing the little dots. I got a whole new marker pen set here, so there's a bunch of different sizes of pen tips. Very micro fine to medium to somewhat larger, which I do a lot of the work with here. The number 8 kind of is my baseline. But getting with the micro details in the pen really allows it to have different levels of texture. Some of the finer penning really allows for fine grain, or even some of those micro dots, which add textures to the whole material, whether it's stone. I sort of kind of develop my own feeling as well too. Day 3 here is Geed. A lot of this stuff is inspired by our ongoing ShadowDark game, which we play here on the channel. in person, and the Shrine of Whispered Prayers was the inspiration here, put on by the 214th, as played by Mark, who has an interesting faction within the outpost of Arventa, which this whole map I'm kind of being inspired by and drawing from. These ruins here are sort of ruins of Arventa that I sort of let emerge out onto the page. So from the ocean behind, up these stairs here, do you get the Shrine of Whispered Prayers, which we've joked is sort of like a pergola of sorts, and putting in each of the beams and each of the pillars there, just making a nice shrine against the rough rock face of the jagged lands that our brave adventurers have stumbled upon. Production-wise, these drawings usually take about 30 minutes. For this whole first week, I usually clock in around 28 to 33 minutes for these drawings, which is a nice little chunk of time that I managed to slip away and dive into. Every day I've looked forward to getting up into the Orange Eyes Tower and streaming to whomever to showcase the process, and looking forward to what's the drawing going to be. So I'm sort of thinking about it throughout the day, and then these videos are sped up 1,000% to truncate the whole process, and I really enjoyed watching other artists have their art emerge and talk through the process as well too. So I figured I would give it my hand, and it's been a practice of not only physical hand production, but there's also the multimedia production as well too, from the video, the top-down video, to now we're getting into the editing process as I record this voiceover and put together all the sights, sounds, musics, and thumbnails and bumpers and so on and so forth. So one little project has like a pond and like a rock in a pond has untold ripples, and this usually takes place in the wee hours of the night too. So energy is usually at the waning tips of the day. Okay, day 4 here, Caltrop. And I like extending the scene as well too from the day before, and it's been fun to think about what's coming next. This Caltrop inspiration is the idea that within our game there are these they're rings normally, or at least when they've come across them, but I can imagine a variety of different objects having these powers. When they're spun on these specific areas or pedestals, they project these images of these cyclopean figures that have communicated in sign language. A lot of elements of sign culture, deaf culture have infused the deep history of this campaign and a lot of the worlds that I've tried to bring to the table, both in person and online, and inspired by the crossroads between the various groups of folks, and hopefully unfold a game in which it tells a deeper story of the history of this world, this lost continent that is being rediscovered and reaccessed by our various factions. And so these imbued messages, I guess, is in the Scaltrop and by the prompt, but just had this, wanted to visualize that image of this thing being projected out, and a stoic sort of cyclopean figure with big goofy cartoon hands being projected out like a permanent image or permanent illusion on loop. He's signing father, or at least I imagine, and a hand to the forehead, and I love the idea of coloring different aspects of it because it adds to the whole image, the composition of the whole art piece. And I've sort of only isolated myself to using this bundle of markers that I got, which have these black and gray and kind of muted gray and cool gray and blue gray. So it's I can't wait to see it when it's complete. I'm trying to pick and choose the right place, the right time to use these sorts of colors without overloading the whole scene. Maybe I'll do something digitally in the end, but I don't know. I kind of wanted to keep it all practical. And so to have the caltrop projecting this recorded image in that sort of purplish gray color adds to the magic of it all. And now filling in the stones with this blue gray, cool gray, and adding some detail to the pedestal with the regular gray. And you can see by bringing a piece of paper that has my cheat sheet, because sometimes it's hard to tell what these colors actually look like, so I put it out on a piece of paper so I could reference. Alright, this is Rune now, day 5, and going on to the other end of the paper here, which gave me a whole new tapestry. I think I forgot recording, so that's why there was a jump cut there, because I had to step away, I think, for the kids for a minute. And I get greedy here. My squares are 3 inches by 3 inches in a regular kind of Dollar Tree poster board, and I overextend, especially on the edges here, to take up above and to the left and diagonally to the left to really fill out the scene. And I like to draw big, I guess, and now to have a whole blank canvas here, did I say, all right, I'm gonna fill out this whole scene, and wanted to have more of this cliff face here on this island, and a rune is embedded in it, and then these strange little rocks. It really helps me to erase my pencils halfway through. I notice I bounce between various tools and talent and techniques, and erasing the pencil allows me to better visualize, what is real and permanent and what is proposed. And getting rid of a lot of the pencil allows me to refocus on, like, okay, a little bit more detail here, or like, okay, I like the composition now, where before it looked kind of off because of the proposed pencil markings. I really liked how these stones turned out with embedded in the sand here, and I don't know, it's just seeing the image unfold in front of me without care or concern of how exactly it looks or how it is assembled. Playing with the colors and stuff too, I kind of slowly put it out there and backpedaled and stopped putting the darker colors in the water. Didn't want to overwhelm it, but I felt I always feel like I don't want to muck up the image, but I feel like I do need more texture, or I need more substance in there, so I tend to do these dots, or in this case they're like little bubbles or little swirls to show off that this is ocean as opposed to the rocks. Alright, day 6, ooze here, continuing up this mountainside. Half the reason I wanted to draw this mountain was so I didn't have to draw a lot of the ocean, and I just wanted this big rift of ooze just flowing down. And a lot of the perspective has really been embellished and displayed well in this newer half, where the original torch was just sort of the image of a torch without any place or being in anything. So we'll see how that all ties together, but knowing what we started to unfold and what we started with makes me wonder how it's all going to tie together in the middle there. And this was fun, having just like a flowy, gooey, liquidy image up against a lot of the hard rock, ravine and rift. And again, this is me putting more mountains, kind of adding some depth to it and perspective, but also not wanting to draw more of the ocean. So I figured if I just cut it off and block it with the mountain, then I don't have to worry about it. Having the deep night sky as well too on the horizon. I really liked how this gray came out too. I thought it was like the perfect color for the ooze, and a perfect placement in the squares. Adds a nice big rich blotch of color in the scene. And I noticed these markers are like cumulative too, like once it dries out and you go over it again, it doesn't blend seamlessly. It like layers itself up, so I've had to like use that to my advantage and actually put some ink lines on some of the areas where it overlapped. But for this ooze portion of it, it looked really nice. See, right here is where I go through and put the ink where the layers overlapped. But there you go, mountain. All right, next one, day 7, Obiix, which in ShadowDark lore is an vampire warrioress. And I was sort of inspired by the idea of her conquering and having a fortress somewhere. So continuing the mountain, did I make a fort or a castle to another rift as well too, I guess, with a bridge here. Some of the pencil markings are hard to see at this stage, but to see them really stand out with the ink is its own little piece of magic, and it's nice seeing it in the time-lapse format. And I was trying to really drive home vampire, so there's some wooden stakes here and heads on some spikes, you know. Only the brave shall enter here, but this is the most likely the deadliest outcome should you come face me. Now here are the wooden stakes here. Imagine some villagers or some adventurers who have perished, left them behind, or they're just thrown out. Sort of referencing the idea that Obiix is a vampire. And these prompts and this whole process has been an awesome way of getting in art and letting this emerge. So, you know, the live streams are sort of a more casual hangout, life updates, live journaling type of thing, and now the compilation of it all is the total synthesis of the first 7 days here. And this has just been a personal artistic challenge too, while also reinforcing and embellishing on our ShadowDark campaign as well too. So I appreciate the artists who are also doing their best and inspiring each other with their drawings, and this is my version of it with the synthesis of the multimedia of it all. And there's 3 moons over by the Shrine of Whispered Prayers, and there's a 4th one here. In our world, there's 4 moons sort of aligned to the cardinal directions, and didn't realize I put all 3 of them sort of like really close together, and I was like, I know I'm gonna need this 4th one somewhere, so I thought this would be the perfect place for it, above this castle, this fortress in the mountains. I didn't like how that darker color came out. Again, it was one of those, I forget what it's called, like, you know, a dark gray or brown gray, and it really swallowed up a lot of the ink markings, and I think I'd try my best to put some over it right here to give some detail to it, but it didn't go with black, but I thought it came out too dark. But I really wanted to show that there was a rift, a ravine here. I guess maybe the perspective wouldn't quite work on that. I have to go through on some of those corner pieces and give it more texture. So at this point, you know, it's like, tell myself to walk away, but I always add just a little bit more fine detail, a little bit more embellishment. But eventually, just like with anything, with my crafts and everything, you have to stop and let the glue dry. So that's day 7. Thanks for watching and making art. Looking forward to the future compilations as well.